She called him my queen in every text message, and I was supposed to believe it was just professional. Looking back now, I realize I spent months convincing myself that my growing unease was just insecurity rather than valid intuition about what was really happening. I'm Trevor, 31 years old, and I work as a database administrator for a mid-sized tech company that specializes in cloud infrastructure solutions. I met Autumn 4 years ago at a networking event for startup professionals in Portland, one of those mixer events where entrepreneurs pitch ideas over craft beer and artisanal appetizers. She was 28 then, just starting to build her digital content creation business, and I was immediately drawn to her infectious energy and genuine ambition. Autumn had this remarkable ability to light up any room when she talked about her vision for building an influencer brand that would inspire other young women to pursue creative careers and build financial independence through content creation. Her passion was absolutely magnetic, and I found myself staying at that networking event 3 hours longer than planned just to keep listening to her ideas. I was working remotely from my hometown in Ohio at the time, managing databases for various clients while living in the same small city where I grew up, but when things got serious between us after 6 months of long-distance dating, I made the significant decision to relocate to Portland to support her entrepreneurial dream. Moving across the country felt like a major life change, but I genuinely believed in what we were building together as a partnership. Autumn was naturally charismatic and instinctively gifted with social media strategy, understanding audience psychology and engagement tactics in ways that seemed almost effortless, while I provided the essential technical backbone that kept everything running smoothly behind the scenes. I spent countless evenings helping optimize her website performance, managing her analytics and data tracking, setting up automated systems for content scheduling, and handling all the boring administrative tasks that content creators rarely want to deal with themselves. More importantly, from a practical standpoint, I consistently covered our monthly rent during the inevitable dry spells that come with freelance creative work, and I regularly invested in equipment upgrades whenever she identified better cameras, lighting setups, or editing software that could improve her content quality. Our relationship felt genuinely balanced and mutually beneficial during those early years. She brought creativity, vision, and social media expertise, while I contributed financial stability, technical skills, and unwavering practical support for her goals. We complemented each other perfectly, or at least that's what I convinced myself was happening. The first real warning signs that something fundamental was shifting started appearing about 8 months ago when Autumn began collaborating professionally with Landon, a freelance videographer who specialized in content creation for influencers and small business owners. Initially, I was completely supportive of this partnership because professional collaboration is absolutely essential in her competitive industry, and Landon came highly recommended from several other successful creators in her professional network. He had impressive experience working with YouTube channels that had achieved significant subscriber growth and promised to elevate the production quality of Autumn's content to the next professional level. What started as occasional project-based work quickly evolved into a regular ongoing partnership, with Landon shooting and editing multiple videos per week for Autumn's channel while also helping develop her content strategy. I noticed their text message exchanges becoming increasingly frequent and notably more casual in tone, but I trusted Autumn completely and didn't want to become the controlling boyfriend who questioned every professional relationship she developed. That trust started slowly eroding when I began observing Landon using increasingly intimate nicknames in their business communications, particularly his habit of calling Autumn my queen, in messages that felt far too personal and emotionally charged for standard professional collaboration. When I finally confronted Autumn about Landon's habit of calling her my queen in their text messages, she immediately dismissed my concerns with an explanation that sounded rehearsed and overly defensive. She insisted it was simply creative industry banter that referenced her commanding presence during video shoots, claiming that Landon used the nickname because she naturally took charge of creative direction and knew exactly what she wanted from each filming session. According to her explanation, the term queen was meant to acknowledge her expertise and leadership in content creation rather than anything remotely romantic or inappropriate. I wanted to believe this rationalization because questioning it would mean admitting that my instincts about their relationship were probably correct, but something about her defensive tone made me increasingly uncomfortable. The situation became more problematic when I noticed that their YouTube collaboration series was gaining significant traction with viewers, and Landon's comments about Autumn being the queen of content creation were becoming a recurring theme that her audience enthusiastically embraced and amplified in the comment section. What bothered me most was that Autumn never corrected this narrative or established any boundaries around the nickname, instead seeming to enjoy the attention and validation it brought from both Landon and her growing fanbase. Their professional dynamic intensified dramatically over the following weeks, with late-night editing sessions that Landon documented extensively on his Instagram stories, always featuring Autumn in flattering lighting while they worked together on what he called their creative masterpieces. These behind-the-scenes glimpses consistently showed them laughing together, sharing inside jokes, and displaying the kind of easy chemistry that made me feel like an outsider looking into a relationship that was becoming increasingly intimate despite its supposed professional nature. I started feeling progressively more sidelined as Autumn began prioritizing Landon's creative input and artistic opinions over our relationship discussions and the time we used to spend planning our future together. Conversations that used to revolve around our shared goals and dreams were gradually replaced by endless updates about whatever brilliant idea Landon had suggested for her next video series or brand collaboration opportunity. When I attempted to contribute my own thoughts about her content strategy or suggest technical improvements that could enhance her channel's performance, Autumn would politely acknowledge my input but then immediately pivot back to discussing whatever creative vision Landon had proposed during their latest brainstorming session. It became painfully obvious that she valued his artistic perspective far more than my practical expertise, even though my technical skills and financial support had been foundational to her success for the past 4 years. The most frustrating aspect of this shift was watching Autumn transform from someone who used to seek my advice and value my opinions into someone who treated me more like a financial supporter than a romantic partner whose thoughts and feelings actually mattered. During this period, I began to feel like I was funding someone else's relationship while being relegated to the role of silent investor rather than equal partner in the life we had supposedly been building together in Portland. The subtle criticisms about my lifestyle started around this time, with Autumn frequently commenting on how predictable and routine-focused my approach to life had become compared to Landon's spontaneous and artistic way of navigating the world. She began describing my work schedule and methodical habits as limiting factors that were somehow holding back her creative potential, while simultaneously praising Landon's flexible schedule and willingness to chase inspiration wherever it led them during their collaborative projects. According to Autumn's increasingly frequent comparisons, Landon understood the artistic temperament and creative process in ways that someone with my technical background simply couldn't comprehend or appreciate fully. I started noticing expensive camera equipment purchases appearing in our shared living space without any prior discussion, along with restaurant charges on our joint credit card that corresponded perfectly with Autumn's supposed client meetings with Landon at upscale establishments I had never been invited to join. When I questioned these expenditures during our monthly budget review, Autumn explained them as essential business investments and professional networking opportunities that required a certain level of sophistication to maintain her brand image within the content creator community. The financial irregularities became more concerning when I realized that these expensive dinners and equipment purchases were happening several times per week, often at venues that seemed far too extravagant for legitimate business meetings between content creators. During this same period, several mutual friends from Portland's content creator community started making subtle comments about seeing Autumn and Landon together at industry events that I hadn't been invited to attend, describing their interactions as unusually close and romantically charged for what was supposed to be a professional partnership. These friends mentioned observing them holding hands during networking mixers, sharing intimate conversations at coffee shops, and generally behaving like a couple rather than business collaborators working on YouTube content together. The most damaging revelation came when I accidentally overheard a phone conversation between Autumn and her roommate from before we moved in together, during which she explicitly stated that Landon understood her artistic vision in ways that felt revolutionary and transformative. She went on to describe their queen and collaborator dynamic as feeling more authentic and emotionally fulfilling than anything else she had experienced in recent years, making it painfully clear that my role in her life had been reduced to nothing more than financial security and logistical support. This conversation revealed that Autumn viewed our 4-year relationship as professionally limiting rather than personally meaningful, and that she saw Landon as the creative partner who could help her reach the next level of success in ways that my technical skills and practical support simply couldn't match. The realization that I had become nothing more than a convenient source of funding while she pursued what was clearly a romantic relationship disguised as professional collaboration was both heartbreaking and infuriating, but it also provided the clarity I needed to understand that our relationship had fundamentally changed from something mutual and loving into something transactional and exploitative. The moment of absolute brutal honesty arrived sooner than I expected, triggered ironically by a sponsored content deal that fell through and left Autumn scrambling to cover expenses she had already committed to funding based on expected revenue that never materialized. In a conversation that will forever be burned into my memory, Autumn boldly admitted that she had been romantically involved with Landon for approximately 4 months while deliberately maintaining our relationship primarily for the financial stability and logistical support it provided her growing content creation business. She explained this betrayal with a cold calculation that shocked me, describing how she had carefully weighed the pros and cons of ending our relationship versus continuing to benefit from my financial contributions while exploring what she called a more creatively fulfilling partnership with someone who truly understood her artistic vision and professional aspirations. Autumn criticized my supposed lack of creative understanding and dismissed our shared history as professionally limiting compared to the inspiring influence that Landon brought to her content creation career and personal growth as an influencer. According to her brutally honest assessment, my practical approach to life and methodical way of solving problems had become obstacles that were preventing her from reaching her full potential as a creative professional, while Landon's spontaneous artistic energy was pushing her to explore new possibilities she had never considered before our relationship began stifling her ambitions. The conversation took an even more devastating turn when Autumn announced her plans to introduce Landon as her new creative partner in upcoming content, effectively replacing me not just personally but also professionally in the brand we had supposedly been building together over the past 4 years. She suggested with remarkable audacity that I could continue supporting her channel and content creation goals from what she described as a friend capacity, essentially asking me to maintain my financial contributions while accepting a complete demotion in terms of my role in her life and career. This proposal revealed the depth of her entitlement and the extent to which she had come to view me as nothing more than a business investor whose feelings and dignity were irrelevant compared to her creative aspirations and romantic desires. Her casual dismissal of our shared history as merely transactional was perhaps the most shocking aspect of this conversation, as it became clear that she had never viewed our relationship as a genuine partnership between equals but rather as a convenient arrangement that provided financial security while she pursued other opportunities. The realization that Autumn saw me primarily as a business investor rather than a life partner who had sacrificed and relocated across the country to support her dreams was both devastating and liberating, because it finally gave me permission to stop pretending that I was dealing with someone who valued our relationship as anything more than a financial convenience that could be discarded whenever something more appealing became available. Instead of engaging in dramatic confrontations or futile attempts to salvage what was clearly a one-sided relationship, I made the strategic decision to methodically remove myself from Autumn's life while she was conveniently traveling to a content creator conference with Landon, an event that provided me with the perfect opportunity to execute my exit plan without unnecessary emotional scenes or manipulative attempts to change my mind. I spent 3 days systematically packing my belongings from our shared apartment, carefully separating my possessions from the life we had built together, while simultaneously making arrangements to transfer to my company's Denver branch office, a move I had been considering for professional reasons even before discovering the extent of Autumn's betrayal. The relocation to Denver represented both a geographic escape and a career advancement opportunity that would allow me to start fresh in Colorado's thriving tech scene while pursuing personal interests that had been neglected during my years of supporting someone else's dreams at the expense of my own growth and happiness. As part of my methodical departure process, I systematically canceled all shared subscriptions and services, removed my name from equipment financing agreements that had funded her content creation setup, and ensured that every financial connection between us was permanently severed before she returned from her supposedly professional trip. The note I left on our kitchen table was deliberately brief and final, stating simply that the content creation collaboration between us was ending along with our personal relationship, using language that mirrored her own business-focused terminology to emphasize how completely I had accepted her view of our partnership as purely transactional. Rather than focusing on recrimination or emotional appeals, I channeled my energy into advancing my database management career and exploring Colorado's incredible rock climbing communities, activities that had always interested me but had been pushed aside during my years of prioritizing Autumn's professional goals over my own personal development and recreational pursuits. The transition to Denver proved remarkably smooth both professionally and personally, as I discovered a supportive network of outdoor enthusiasts and tech professionals who shared my interests in both career advancement and mountain recreation activities. When Autumn eventually returned from her conference expecting to negotiate terms for my continued financial support while maintaining her new romantic arrangement, she instead found an empty apartment and discovered that her reliable revenue stream had vanished along with the emotional safety net she had taken for granted throughout our relationship. The shock of discovering my complete departure without warning or opportunity for manipulation was apparently devastating to her sense of control and financial security, according to mutual friends who reported her frantic attempts to contact me through various channels after realizing the full extent of what she had lost by treating our relationship as a disposable business arrangement rather than a genuine partnership between two people who had supposedly been building a future together. The consequences of Autumn's choices became apparent much more quickly than I had anticipated, as Landon proved to be spectacularly unreliable as both a creative collaborator and romantic partner, consistently missing important deadlines for content production while creating material that failed to meet her audience's expectations or maintain the engagement levels she had worked years to achieve. Within weeks of my departure, mutual friends from the content creator community began reporting that Landon was prioritizing his own individual projects over their supposed collaboration, often disappearing for days without communication when better opportunities arose from his expanding network of potential clients who offered more lucrative contracts than Autumn's relatively modest channel could provide. The financial disasters began accumulating rapidly as Landon maxed out credit cards on expensive equipment purchases that he claimed were essential for their collaborative content but which he primarily used for his own independent projects, leaving Autumn financially responsible for thousands of dollars in debt while receiving minimal benefit from the supposed partnership that had cost her both her relationship and her financial stability. The creative partnership that Autumn had described as more authentic and inspiring than anything we had built together quickly devolved into a one-sided arrangement where she provided funding and logistical support while Landon contributed decreasing amounts of actual work, essentially replicating the same dynamic she had criticized in our relationship but with far worse financial and professional outcomes. Landon's eventual abandonment of their partnership came when he received a lucrative corporate videography contract that required him to relocate to Los Angeles, at which point he simply informed Autumn that their collaboration had served its purpose and that he was moving on to bigger opportunities that better matched his professional ambitions and financial goals. This abandonment left Autumn not only heartbroken but also financially devastated, carrying debt from their failed ventures while simultaneously dealing with declining subscriber numbers and damaged relationships with sponsors who had trusted her professionalism and consistency over the years we had worked together to build her brand reputation. The content quality suffered dramatically as her personal drama began affecting her work output, resulting in canceled brand partnerships and a significant drop in revenue that exposed just how dependent her supposed success had been on the financial foundation and logistical support I had provided throughout our relationship. Sponsors who had worked with her channel for months began declining to renew contracts, citing concerns about inconsistent content delivery and the unprofessional drama that was becoming visible in her posts and interactions with followers who had previously viewed her as a stable and inspiring content creator worth following for lifestyle and business advice. Autumn's desperate attempts to reconnect with me began approximately 6 months after my departure to Denver, when she somehow tracked down my contact information through professional networking sites and began sending increasingly frantic messages claiming that Landon had been nothing more than a temporary creative phase that she deeply regretted pursuing at the expense of our supposedly successful partnership. Her initial messages attempted to frame our relationship in purely business terms, suggesting that we had achieved measurable success together and that abandoning our collaboration had been a strategic mistake that was hurting both of our professional trajectories in ways she was only now beginning to fully comprehend and appreciate. When I refused to respond to these attempts at re-establishing contact, Autumn escalated her efforts by enlisting various content creator friends and even family members to pressure me through social media platforms and professional connections, with these intermediaries delivering messages about how much she missed our partnership and how willing she was to rebuild what we had previously achieved together. The manipulation campaign became increasingly transparent as mutual friends reported receiving requests to forward messages, coordinate meetings, or simply advocate for giving Autumn another opportunity to explain her perspective and potentially restore our working relationship that she claimed had been the foundation of her previous success as a content creator. My continued refusal to engage with these reconciliation efforts only seemed to intensify her desperation, as she apparently realized that finding another partner willing to provide the same level of financial support and technical expertise would be significantly more challenging than she had originally anticipated when she chose to pursue what seemed like a more exciting creative opportunity with Landon. The ultimate confrontation occurred 14 months after my initial departure, when we both happened to attend the same tech industry conference in Denver, an event where I appeared confident and clearly thriving in my new environment alongside Brooke, a mountain rescue coordinator I had met through the rock climbing community who shared both my outdoor interests and my appreciation for genuine partnership rather than transactional relationships. Autumn's presence at this conference was clearly motivated by desperation rather than legitimate professional interest, as she spent most of the event attempting to network with potential sponsors and collaborators while obviously struggling to maintain the polished appearance and confident demeanor that had once defined her brand presence in professional settings. When she finally approached me during a networking reception, her final plea focused entirely on emphasizing what she described as our proven track record of content creation success, completely ignoring the personal betrayal and emotional manipulation that had characterized the end of our relationship in favor of business-focused arguments about missed opportunities and profitable collaborations. I responded by calmly explaining that her manipulation and betrayal had taught me to value authentic partnerships built on mutual respect rather than transactional relationships where one person exploits another's dedication and financial resources, definitively closing that chapter of my life while making it clear that no amount of professional success could justify the personal cost of dealing with someone who viewed relationships as business arrangements to be managed rather than genuine connections between equals who support each other's growth and happiness.